The phone buzzed on the nightstand, its screen glowing like a beacon in the dim apartment. Ethan's heart stopped as he read the clinic's message. HIV positive. Please call to discuss. His world collapsed in those 3 seconds, the sterile words slicing through the quiet of his Brooklyn bedroom. He sat frozen, the weight of the diagnosis pinning him to the bed. 26 years old, a graphic designer with dreams of a future with his boyfriend, Liam, and now this. His mind raced, replaying every moment of the past year. The late nights at Liam's apartment, the laughter, the promises. How could this happen? They'd been careful, hadn't they? Ethan's chest tightened as he dialed Liam's number, needing his voice, his reassurance. The call went straight to voicemail. Again and again. Ethan paced the small apartment, the hardwood floor creaking under his bare feet. It was 2 a.m., and Liam hadn't come home. He'd said he was working late at the bookstore, but the store closed at 9. Ethan's gut churned with a familiar unease. Liam had been distant lately. Quick kisses instead of lingering ones, vague excuses about his whereabouts. Ethan pushed the thought away, focusing on the crisis at hand. He needed Liam now, more than ever. The next morning, Ethan sat at the kitchen table, coffee untouched, staring at the clinic's number on his phone. He'd called earlier, and the nurse's gentle voice had confirmed the test results, scheduling him for a follow-up to discuss treatment. Treatment. The word felt foreign, like it belonged to someone else's life. He was healthy, fit, always cautious. How could this be real? His thoughts spiraled until the front door clicked open. Liam stumbled in, his dark hair mussed, wearing yesterday's clothes. Hey, babe, he said, his voice casual but strained. He dropped his keys on the counter, avoiding Ethan's eyes. Where were you? Ethan's voice was low, trembling with a mix of fear and suspicion. Bookstore. Got caught up with inventory. Liam's smile didn't reach his eyes. He moved to the fridge, pulling out a water bottle, his movements too deliberate. Liam, the store closes at 9. It's 10 a.m. Ethan's hands clenched into fists. I called you. All night. Liam froze, his back to Ethan. Phone died. Forgot my charger. Ethan's throat tightened. He wanted to believe him, but the pieces didn't fit. I got a call from the clinic last night, he said, his voice breaking. I tested positive. For HIV. The room went silent. Liam turned slowly, his face pale, eyes wide. What? Ethan, are you serious? Ethan nodded, tears stinging his eyes. I don't understand how we've been safe, right? You've been with me, only me, right? Liam's jaw tightened, and for a moment, he said nothing. That silence was louder than any confession. Ethan's heart sank, a sickening realization creeping in. Liam, were you last night? I told you, the bookstore. Stop lying. Ethan's voice cracked, echoing in the small kitchen. You weren't there. You haven't been there half the nights you say you are. Where were you, Liam? Liam's shoulders slumped, his gaze dropping to the floor. I was at a friend's place. Crashed there. A friend. Ethan's voice was barely a whisper. Who? Liam hesitated, his eyes flickering with guilt. It was Jake. Ethan's breath caught. Jake. Liam's ex. The one he swore he'd cut contact with after they got back together last year. You were with Jake? All night. It's not what you think, Liam said quickly, stepping forward. We were just talking, catching up. Catching up. Ethan's voice rose, raw with betrayal. I'm sitting here, dealing with this, and you're spending the night with your ex? Ethan, I swear it wasn't like that. Liam's hands reached out, but Ethan stepped back, his trust shattered. The room spun as Ethan processed the double blow, the diagnosis and Liam's betrayal. He thought of their first date 2 years ago, under the twinkling lights of a Coney Island Ferris wheel. Liam had held his hand, promising forever. Now, that promise felt like a lie. I need to know the truth, Ethan said, his voice steady despite the storm inside. Have you been sleeping with him? Liam's silence was answer enough. Ethan's world tilted, and he grabbed the counter for support. Get out, he whispered. Ethan, please. Get out. Ethan shouted, tears streaming down his face. Liam hesitated, then grabbed his jacket and left, the door slamming behind him. Ethan sank to the floor, sobbing. The diagnosis was a mountain, but Liam's betrayal was an earthquake, splitting his heart in two. He didn't know how to face this alone, but he knew he had to. For himself. For his future. Ethan spent the next week in a haze, moving between doctor's appointments and sleepless nights. The clinic was a blur of white coats and pamphlets, each visit hammering home the reality of his diagnosis. Antiretroviral therapy, viral loads, CD4 counts, the terms swirled in his head, a new language he was forced to learn. The doctor, a kind woman named Dr. Patel, assured him that with treatment he could live a long, healthy life. But the words felt hollow when his heart was still bleeding from Liam's betrayal. He hadn't heard from Liam since that morning. No calls, no texts, just silence. Ethan's phone buzzed with messages from friends, but he ignored them, unable to face their questions. He felt like a ghost in his own life, drifting through Brooklyn's crowded streets, invisible yet heavy with grief. One afternoon, he found himself at Prospect Park, the place where he and Liam had shared their first kiss. The memory stung, but he sat on a bench, watching couples stroll by, their laughter a cruel reminder of what he'd lost. His phone buzzed, a text from his best friend, Sarah. "You okay? Haven't heard from you." He typed a quick reply, promising to call later, but his heart wasn't in it. That evening, Ethan stood in front of his bathroom mirror, staring at the bottle of pills Dr. Patel had prescribed. He took the first dose, the pill bitter on his tongue. It was a step toward control, but it didn't erase the questions gnawing at him. How had he contracted HIV? Had Liam been unfaithful before Jake? The uncertainty was a knife, twisting deeper with every thought. Desperate for answers, Ethan opened his laptop and logged into Liam's email, an account he knew the password to from months of shared Netflix binges. His hands shook as he scrolled through messages, his stomach dropping when he found a chain of emails between Liam and Jake, dated weeks back. "Miss you. Can we meet?" Jake had written. Liam's replies were vague, but damning. "Yeah, I'll swing by." Ethan's vision blurred with tears. The emails confirmed what he'd feared. Liam had been seeing Jake for months. Rage surged through him, but it was quickly swallowed by despair. He slammed the laptop shut, his sobs echoing in the empty apartment. He felt betrayed not just by Liam, but by his own body, his own trust. How had he been so blind? The next day, Ethan met Sarah at a coffee shop in Williamsburg. Her warm brown eyes softened when she saw him, and she pulled him into a hug. "You look like hell," she said, her voice gentle but direct. Ethan managed a weak smile. "Feel like it too." Over coffee, he told her everything. The diagnosis, Liam's betrayal, the crushing weight of it all. Sarah listened, her hand squeezing his, her presence a lifeline. "You don't have to go through this alone," she said. "You're stronger than you think, Ethan, and you deserve better than Liam." Her words sparked something in him, a flicker of resolve. He wasn't just a victim of HIV or Liam's lies. He was still Ethan, the guy who'd built a life in New York, who'd survived heartbreak before. He vowed to fight, not just for his health, but for his dignity. That night, Ethan called the clinic to schedule a support group session. Dr. Patel had mentioned it during his last visit, and though he'd brushed it off, he now craved connection with others who understood. As he hung up, he felt a small spark of hope. It wasn't much, but it was enough to keep him going. The support group met in a community center in Manhattan, a small room with folding chairs and a coffee maker humming in the corner. Ethan hesitated at the door, his nerves buzzing. What if they pitted him? What if he didn't belong? But a warm voice called his name, and a man with a kind smile waved him in. "I'm Tom," the man said, shaking Ethan's hand. "Welcome. We're all here to listen, not judge." Tom, in his 40s, was HIV positive and had been living with it for a decade. His calm confidence eased Ethan's fears, and he took a seat. The group was small, 6 people, all white, ranging from their 20s to 50s. They shared their stories, their fears, their victories. One woman, Claire, spoke about rebuilding her life after a diagnosis shattered her marriage. A young man, Ryan, talked about dating again, navigating disclosure with new partners. Ethan listened, his heart aching but also lifting. He wasn't alone. When it was his turn, Ethan's voice shook as he recounted his diagnosis and Liam's betrayal. The group nodded, their eyes full of empathy, not pity. Tom shared his own story of loss and resilience, emphasizing the power of community. "You're not defined by this virus," he said. "You define what it means to live with it." Ethan left the meeting feeling lighter, a seed of strength planted in his chest. He started attending weekly, finding solace in the shared experiences. He also threw himself into his work, designing posters for a local theater group, pouring his pain into his art. His illustrations grew bolder, more vibrant, as if his grief was fueling his creativity. One evening, while sketching in his apartment, Ethan got a text from Liam. "Can we talk? I'm sorry." His thumb hovered over the reply button, anger and longing warring inside him. He wanted answers, closure, but he wasn't ready to face Liam's excuses. He set the phone down, choosing himself over the past. Weeks later, Ethan met Ryan outside the group, grabbing coffee at a cozy shop near the community center. Ryan, with his sharp wit and easy smile, was a breath of fresh air. They talked about art, music, and life beyond their diagnoses. For the first time in months, Ethan laughed freely, the sound foreign but welcome. As they walked through Central Park, Ryan brushed his hand against Ethan's, a subtle question. Ethan hesitated, then laced their fingers together, his heart racing. It wasn't love, not yet, but it was a spark, a reminder that he could feel again. The sunset painted the sky in hues of pink and gold, and Ethan felt a flicker of the romance he'd thought he'd lost forever. Months passed, and Ethan's life began to take shape again. His viral load was undetectable, thanks to strict adherence to his medication. Dr. Patel praised his progress, and the support group became his anchor, a place where he could be honest without fear. Ryan became a constant too, not a boyfriend, but a friend who understood, their connection deepening with every shared coffee and late-night talk. Ethan's art flourished, landing him a freelance gig designing a campaign for an HIV awareness nonprofit. The work felt meaningful, a way to channel his pain into purpose. He poured his heart into the project, creating bold visuals that celebrated resilience and hope. At the campaign's launch event, he stood in a crowded gallery, watching strangers admire his work, their whispers of praise warming his soul. But Liam's shadow lingered. Ethan hadn't responded to his texts, but the unanswered questions gnawed at him. Had Liam been tested? Was he the source? Ethan needed closure, not just for himself, but to protect others. He finally texted Liam, asking to meet at a neutral spot, a diner in Brooklyn. Liam arrived looking worn, his usual charm dulled. Ethan, he started, his voice soft. I'm so sorry. I messed up. Ethan's jaw tightened. Messed up? You lied to me, Liam. For months. And now I'm living with this. Liam's eyes glistened with tears. I didn't know I got tested after you told me. I'm negative. I swear, I don't know how this happened. Ethan wanted to believe him, but the trust was gone. You were with Jake. How many others? Liam? How long were you cheating? Liam's silence confirmed Ethan's worst fears. It was just Jake, he finally said. It started a few months ago. I was confused, stressed. I didn't mean to hurt you. Ethan's chest ached, but he kept his voice steady. You didn't just hurt me. You broke me, and I'm still picking up the pieces. Liam reached for his hand, but Ethan pulled away. I need you to be honest with yourself, Ethan said. Get tested regularly. Be upfront with whoever you're with. Don't do to someone else what you did to me. He stood, leaving Liam at the table, the weight of the conversation lifting as he walked away. It wasn't forgiveness, but it was closure. Ethan felt stronger, more in control of his story. That night, he called Ryan, inviting him to the gallery to see his work. As they stood among the vibrant posters, Ryan's hand found his, and Ethan didn't pull away. The future was uncertain, but for the first time, he felt ready to face it. A year after his diagnosis, Ethan stood on the roof of his apartment building, the New York skyline glittering under a starlit sky. He'd come far. His health was stable, his art was thriving, and his heart was healing. The support group had become a family, and Ryan had become more than a friend. They hadn't labeled their relationship, but the quiet moments, like this one, standing side by side, hands brushing, felt like love. Ethan's campaign for the nonprofit had gone viral, sparking conversations about HIV awareness across the city. He'd spoken at events, sharing his story, turning his pain into a beacon for others. The fear that once consumed him had transformed into purpose, a testament to his resilience. He thought of Liam less often now, the betrayal a scar rather than an open wound. He learned that HIV didn't define him. It was part of his story, but not the whole. His life was bigger than the virus, bigger than the heartbreak. As he and Ryan leaned against the rooftop railing, the city buzzing below, Ethan felt a quiet peace. You ever think about the future? Ryan asked, his voice soft. Ethan smiled, the skyline reflecting in his eyes. All the time. I want to keep creating, keep fighting. Maybe even love again. Ryan's fingers tightened around his. You already are. Ethan's heart swelled, the weight of the past lifting. He didn't know what tomorrow held, but he knew he'd face it with courage, surrounded by people who saw him for who he was. The diagnosis had tested him, and Liam's betrayal had broken him, but Ethan had rebuilt himself, stronger and more whole. The stars above seemed to shine brighter, a reminder that even in the darkest moments, light could be found. Ethan took a deep breath, ready for whatever came next, knowing he was enough.